Well, good morning everyone and welcome to another podcast. As you can probably hear, I'm back out on the river today. I'm going to have a go at some grayling today. I've just tied up some killer bugs yesterday, which is one of my favourite grayling flies. I've got my 9-foot 4-weight river outfit, about 9 feet of fluorocarbon, size 12 killer bug on the end, and I've got my usual high-vis braided loop which I've greased up with some mucilin. It's a beautiful spot of river. I've not actually fished this particular piece of river before, but it's a beautiful rural stretch, although I've just got the hum of a electricity substation in the background. I'm going to start with there's a pool ahead of me that's kind of cut through a gorge in the earth. It's quite steep banks, but it's an easy wade. The river's quite low. I'm just going to head across the stream now, grab my wading stick and get ready to have a cast. Right, just getting into position. The wading's it's not too difficult really. There's a few smooth rocks underneath which are never easy. It's a beautiful late summer's morning. Just a bit of a break in the weather. We've got this storm coming through at the minute, and there were some very high winds yesterday, with more high winds forecast later today and unfortunately tomorrow. So just got a little break in the weather this morning. Right, so the river's flowing down in front of me. A big column of midges in the air actually. I'll get my first cast out and just cover the base of the pool to start off with. I've still got lots of green vegetation lining the banks and trees ahead of me. If I look up the stream, there's a rock in the middle and there's a dipper just bobbing away on the rock. I'm putting some short casts out to start off with, just covering the bottom of this run. That one's not very good. Again, when I'm nymph fishing, what I'm really trying to cover are those areas of concentrated current, those little faster sections where the current's pinched, and they're the areas where the current is pinched and concentrated. The food's also concentrated, so it's areas where the grayling tend to lie. It's got a very good head of grayling in this river. In this bit there's more grayling than trout really. Oh, look like a dink. Just grab my stick and move up a touch. I think this fly line needs a bit of a clean. It's just feeling a little bit sluggish as it goes through the rings. I have to confess I'm not a big cleaner of fly lines, especially whenever, because I work. Oh, and we're in. Oh, that's a nice fish. What's this? I thought that might be a trout actually. Ah, no, it is a trout. There we go. Lovely. I wasn't expecting a trout like that first few casts. It's a nice fat specimen anyway. Lovely. Right. Well, I'll pop him straight back. Super. No, we're off the mark with an unexpected trout. He was about 10 inches, but a nice fat fish, so he's obviously getting plenty of food. And I'll just put the cast back out again. So as usual, that was just towards the head of the riffle of the pool, and that's where you tend to often find them in this river, just in the heads of the pools where that water's moving at a little bit at pace, and that's because that's where the fish can get first dibs on that food entering the pool, and if they stack up there they're going to get the food first, which is probably why that chap was so fat. I'll lay a few more that looked like it could be a take. I'll lay a few more casts down in the head of this pool, and then there's a little run ahead of me I'll move up to. Right, I'll wind in. Super. Oh, what a lovely start to the day. It's always the beauty of river fishing. I was expecting grayling today, and it's the unexpected that makes it exciting. Most of the time you think you know what you're going to catch, and most of the time you're right, but it's the times that you're wrong that make this game really, really interesting. Right, we've got a lovely little run here. Looks reasonably deep. Overhanging branches on both sides, and then a big pile of rocks that's obviously been put there as a bit of defence against erosion. And there's a nice seam of current snaking down through the gap and then snaking down through a pool. So let's see if we can get anything out of here. I'll start with the bottom of the pool, just on the lip, and that's often a good place. There's normally a fish or two just in the lip at the bottom, and then I'll work my way up. They're really interesting flies, these killer bugs, when you oh, that was a touch, when you read the history of them. They were invented by Frank Sawyer, the very famous river keeper on the River Avon, and he wanted a very quick tie, something to catch the grayling, and it's just made of wool and wire, and that's it. You can tie one very simply, but the wool he used, I think he just grabbed it because that's what he had. That's all he had to hand. But it was a darning wool called by a manufacturer called Chadwick's, and it was Chadwick's 477 was the name of the wool. And he tied loads of flies up, and that Chadwick's 477 is no longer made. And if you want to buy just a few meters of it on eBay, the original stuff that he used to make this fly, then you can expect to pay in excess of £100, which is crazy money really, just for a few meters of wool. Luckily, there are some very, very good copies around, so we sell a copy of Chadwick's 477 on the fly shop, and it's pretty much indistinguishable from the real thing. And I think it retails at £1.50. So if you ever come across a little packet of Chadwick's 477, hang on to it. Right, let's move up this pool a touch. Oh, there's a nice rise ahead of me there. Just off a rock in the middle of the stream, and just in the V of the current, there's a nice rise. In fact, it's a good fishing weather today. It's nice and overcast, a bit cooler. Not seeing anything of significance in terms of hatches yet, but there's certainly plenty of midges about. But I'd expect to see some maybe large dark olives coming off later. Now we're back into September. I do enjoy my nymph fishing, really do. I'm one of these few people that, given the choice, I'd probably take this over dry fly fishing. I'll try a longer cast and drop it into the head of the pool. I'll let this run down for a long way and really get down a bit. Right, I think we'll leave this bit and keep wading up. Now the river really goes very narrow ahead of me. The whole river's been squeezed through let's grab my stick. Been squeezed through a gap of only probably 8 feet, something like that. So there's a real torrent coming down, and that's obviously scoured out a nice deep pool beneath it. Wading's a little trickier here. Now this does look a bit more trouty, this water ahead of me. I've got a lovely straight bubble seam. I'm just going to tidy this leader up a little bit at the end. That's better. Right, I've got a very accurate cast out. I've just got to get it in between a couple of rocks here. That's it. So there's lots of rocks in this particular bit here where they've built in a defence against erosion, and it's obviously a few of the bigger pieces of rock have fallen in, and it's created a lovely little run. There's a bubble stream running right down the middle. Nice pace on the water. Overhanging trees, so I'll just watch my cast on this bit. Try and keep the line off the water as much as I can to avoid any drag. Right on the seam of the current's a good spot sometimes. It might be worth putting a slack line cast in here just to stop the drag at the back end of the pool from pulling that fly up. Oh, that was a take. Monkey. I think that was the fish I saw rise, because I just had it exactly on that spot, and it went, and then it obviously spat it. It's amazing what difference a slack line cast does make when you're getting a bit of drag. Actually, it's just a case of putting a wiggle in the rod as the line's delivering to the water, and then when the current pulls on the line, it's straightening the line and not pulling the fly. But it can make a real difference to your presentation. With a little rise there just on my right, but it was only a small fish. Like a little... Oh, I think I've treed that one. Nope. Very lucky there. Well, I had one chance at that fish that I saw rise just off that rock, and I think I've may well have spooked him by now. I've put several casts in now. Just try one off the side, just into the slightly slower water. Right, onwards and upwards. It feels a good fishing morning this morning. You can sometimes you're wrong and it feels like it's going to fish well and it doesn't, but it really does feel like a good fishing morning. Coat weather, I've got my coat on and nicely overcast. We had a bit of rain yesterday just to freshen things up a touch. Herring fishing ahead of me as well by the looks of it. A little small, oh god, nearly in there. Concentrate on your wading and not on the herring, David. Right, I've got some thin water here, and if it was proper pocket water I'd fish my way up it, but it's really, really thin. There's just an inch or two. They can't even cover their backs in it, so I'm just going to skip through this bit, work my way up the stream. There's another dipper. So I've got some large mature trees now, and the river's undercut the roots on the right side, and there's a nice deep run there. It's about 20 feet wide, the river here, but most of it's pretty shallow. But on the right bank there I can see a nice deep undercut run. It's got some pace to it, so it looks like a good bit of nymphing water. So I'm just going to creep up on that and drop the bug into that little run there if I can. A few trees overhead, so I'm going to have to watch them. I'll just put a cast in that way. There we are. Tiny little rise. I think that's a fish probably not more than a couple of inches. There's quite a few of those in the river now. Those tiny fry have just moved into the main body of the river. Oh, that was a take. Main body of the river, and they're just flicking up, taking the little midges in the stiller sections. And it's amazing when you think of it. Most of those fry will be dead before they even reach their first birthday. And it's just that survival of that few percent that will be the future generations of the fish. Just dropped it into the riffle at the top. Move up a touch. Right, I think roll cast is needed here because it's now coming to these big mature trees and the branches are quite precarious. So just put some little roll casts in. I'm on the bottom there. Let's try and get this off without losing my fly. Yeah, for anyone who's thinking of starting fly tying this autumn and winter, this kind of fly, the killer bugs, are brilliant flies to start with because you'll be able to learn them fairly easy, and you'll also catch on them if you can get out onto a Grayling stream, so you'll get that thrill of catching on a fly you've tied yourself, and that will kind of spur you on to maybe get into some of the more complicated flies. These and buzzers and pheasant tail nymphs are all great ideas for flies to start practicing on. Look very fishy this, but there's nothing obliging me today on this particular bit. Two herons having a scrap now further up the river. Dipper nearly hit me in the head. It's all happening. Looks like a big glide ahead of me where those herons were scrapping. Trees are getting really tall now on both banks. In fact, there's some willows here that look like they've split and snapped at some point, which happens a lot when these big willows, you get beside the river, they get to a certain height and it just takes one bit of wind at this time of year, and when the tree's still in full leaf and they'll come down. Well, that's a big old willow to come down that. I wonder where that ended up. Probably downriver somewhere. Right, we've got a big old glide of about, it's got to be 50-foot glide ahead of me. Nothing rising. It looks fishy. Well, work the nymph up. I'm not really bothered about this slow water at the bottom. Oh, there is a rise there actually. Part of you says put the dry on, but then I'm only going to fish the dry for about 10 casts and have to switch back to the nymph, so I'll just prospect up with a nymph. Oh, there's a wagtail flying down at head height as well. These birds have got it in for me today. So what I'm doing here, I'm fishing up this slower water. I don't really like nymph fishing in slow water, but just on the off chance something grabs it as it drops, I'm fishing as I'm walking effectively. And what I'm doing is working my way towards the quicker bits of water, towards the head of the pool, where it's going to be more effective nymph water. I'm going to try and get a proper day out on the dry fly, on the trout before the season finishes, knowing this particular river as I do. It fishes so well on the nymph. Most of these grayling feed in these faster, deeper runs that are more suited to nymphing. As much as I'd enjoy the challenge of catching a dry, it'd be nice to get a few fish on the end for the podcast. Hopefully, if things go to plan, I might go and have missed you. Might have a chuck at the salmon next week up in the Dales. Just have to see if I can get the time to do it, and also just keep an eye on the river levels. Just starting to get into that time where there's a chance of a salmon or two making their way up. Just working some longer casts out now, trying to just get it down to the bottom of this deeper glide. There's a couple of fish flicked up now. Maybe I should have put the dry on. Apparently there's some coarse fish in here, some chub and barbel, but although I've never fished this particular bit, I've fished this river quite a lot, and to say I've never caught one yet. And if there are chub and you're fishing with the fly, you'd expect to get one at some point. Maybe I've just been fishing in the wrong bits. I don't tend to enjoy fishing the very, very slow, almost canal-like bits of river. I much prefer water that's got pace. It's just a bit more interesting for me. Oh, well, I know there's some fish ahead of me. Where's my stick gone? Up a touch. Now we're just getting into the more interesting water now. There's a little bit of pace on the river, and you can see the bubbles moving down, accelerating through the riffle and into the main body of the glide. So I'll really start to cover all this water now. This is where I'd expect a fish or two. There's lots of buddleia on this river. It's something you don't always see by the riverside, but the smell of it is the air temperature's just warming up a touch. You can really smell the buddleia. Just seems there's just a few left out now, and a lot of them are finished for the year, but those that are out, really pungent. Nothing so far. Let's keep prospecting. Try all the likely little runs and riffles. I think that was just bottom there, it stopped, but I can spy a rock. I think I just caught the rock Come on, fishies, where are you? I'm fishing at range as well, I've got the room to cast now, and the last thing I want to do is spook anything, so I'm putting a bit of a longer cast out while I'm searching this top bit of river. But again, I expect to fish here, and I've seen a couple of small ones rising, but I've not had really what amounts to a take on the nymph, which has surprised me. I just nearly treed it on that cast. Missed it. I had one on and it's bumped off. Hey, that's annoying. And you see there's another one there. It was right in the head of the pool. Tricky casting now. This head of this pool's fairly difficult to get to, and another take, and I've missed that too. There we go. Lightning fast. Just readjusting my wading stick, and there you go. So it's a beautiful morning now. I presume this is almost like the eye of the storm. It's giving torrential rain and 45 mile an hour winds most of the day tomorrow. So right, I've fished this one out. I've pricked a couple and lost them, so there's another shorter run ahead of me. I'll work my way up to that. You can just notice, looking at the trees lining the banks, there's certain trees now, half of them have gone yellow. It's been a terrible year really for fly fishing. We normally start out doing the instruction on the river. We normally start on the end of March when the trout season opens, and yeah, sometimes we're a week or so late because the water's still high, but we had all that snow and cold weather around Easter, and we didn't get on the rivers till I think the 10th of May, and then it went from freezing cold, snow melt, high water, freezing cold easterly winds. It went from that to baking up 25 degrees, and there wasn't really a spring to speak of. It just went from winter straight through to summer, and it's just not been a good year. The water's been so low all year. It really needs a couple of feet of water just to come through and flush it all out. Right, I've got a run now of about 30 feet in front of me, nice and fast, good nymphing water, and we'll see if there's anything in here. I would imagine there'll be a little trout somewhere. Looking at the rocks and the speed of the current, looks like a trouty type run. Oh, and we're in. Yes, and it is a little wild brown trout, just as I expected it would be. Come here, little fella. It's that kind of water. It's quick and fast and pocket water, and these little wild brownies love there. He's only what, 6 inches, but just wet my hands before I unhook him and slip him back. There we go. Well, come out expecting grayling. I've had 2 trout. I've just gone and put my fly in a tree. I've missed the trees all day, and then I'm not looking to just flick my fly back into the water, and I've wanged it in the tree. And I don't think I'm going to get that back. Oh no, I have. Right, back in we go. I'm just covering all of this. It's almost like one big deep riffle really. I guess it's kind of pocket water in a way, but it does look right for them little wild brownies. It's the kind of water be nice to fish on a big clink hammer and just watch something grab it as it comes down. I think that's me about covered all this now, so there's a gradient above me, the water's coming down the hill and there's nothing in there, so I'll move on up to the next bit. A bit of a break in the clouds now, a bit of blue sky ahead, just a bit more light on the trees. It's really showing up the oranges and yellows. Tree lined on both sides now, mixture of willows and a couple of oaks. And it's nice to see there's not much Himalayan balsam either. I've hardly seen any. We've not seen a grayling yet either. Approaching the Another pool. It's a nice big pool this actually. Is about, river's a good 30 foot across and a nice flow to it. There's 2 or 3 fish rising. There are a couple of large dark olives actually coming off, and I'll stick with the nymph. Let's get into that timing. Oh yes, we're in. Oh, it's off. First cast into the lip of the pool, and I had one on. And we're in again. What's this? It's another trout. Another trout. Another little trout. There we go. Might have even been the same fish that came off. Right. I would not have expected this river to produce 3 trout in the first 3 fish. It'd be odds on to be grayling in here. And we're in again. Would you believe it? It's another trout. And it's not bad, this one either. It's really putting a bend in the rod. Come here, fella. I don't believe that's a nice fish, that. It's got to be a pound. A lovely trout. Beautiful wild brownie. Hook's just fallen out in the net. Lots of teeth on them. You can see the very, very toothy at this time of year. And they must just be on the feed today, big time by the looks of it. These trout are going crackers today. Maybe they can sense the fall in temperature and the change in daylight levels, and they're starting to feed hard, ready for the spawning through winter. I've not even moved from this spot. I think I've had 3 trout and I've not waded upstream. Alright, I'll take a few paces up now. I've still got the best bit of the run to come. Try not to make too many waves up this pool. It's a classic pool, this. It's a beautiful run. Really, really straight bubble stream. Very gradual riffle. It absolutely screams fish. Not too deep either, just the right depth. Oh, that was a take. Missed that one. We're just coming into the prime bit of this run now. There we go. That is a grayling. Yeah, it's twisting and turning. That's a nice fish. You can see its fin. Beautiful red fin in the current sticking up. And he's in the net, lovely. And they twist like crocodiles. Crocodile's death roll when they're in the net. Lovely. So we've had the rather nice grayling and bigger than average as well, which is excellent news. Right, now where there's one grayling, there's normally more, so I'm not really going to move. I'm just going to drop this in a similar spot and keep working it down. Look like a take again there. What's this? That's a tiny fish. What's it going to be? It's a tiny grayling. He's only 3 inches, that one. Such a small fish that they don't have to put a stop in the fly line. It was... Right, move up a fraction. I think it's only shallow, but it's only a foot deep in the top here. So the head of the pool here, there's 2 separate seams of current entering the pool, and I've covered one, and I'm now just moving over to the far bank to cover the other. Nice and fast, but brambles hanging off the edge of the bank that are just trailing in the water, so I've just got to avoid those. I'm just carefully working my way up. That's on the money, that cast there. It should come down nicely. I think we've about done this one out now. Quarter leaf. Well, I'm going to move up to the next run, I think. I think 2 2 grayling and 3 trout, and lost a couple so far, which is, it's a nice morning's fishing that. Just heard the hum of this substation behind me again now as I come past round the corner. Right, so what we've got now, a wide pool, nice tree cover on both sides, and the river splits above it, some rocks in the middle, and we've got a channel of current filling the pool on the left and one on the right. So I'll take the right hand side first and then probably come back a touch and then work up this current on the left. Bottom of the pool there's again an undercut bank and overhanging trees. It's a bit shallower than I thought it was going to be here actually. Yeah, it's a lot shallower on this right hand side than I was expecting, so I'm going to concentrate on this seam of current that's entering on the left. There's a nice bubble stream, but casting is very difficult. Lots of very tall overhanging trees. It's almost like a tunnel. Oh, take straight away and I missed it. They're lightning quick. Is it going to take it again? That's just spitting it. That's in and out before you can react. Whatever that was. Probably a little trout just attacking it. So I'm having to cast directly upstream but crouching at the same time. And just striking into a fish. Crouching and casting upstream, and it's a bit of a stress position really, and it's the only way of getting under these trees. It's quite hard to see the braided loop here. The light's just the wrong shade on the water. It's when it's gone very bright reflection of the sky, and the glare, I can't quite see my braided loop. Well, I think I had my chance. The first take of that run and that little run ahead of me, an outcrop of rock on the right and the current's just swinging round it. Again, it looks like one of them fast rocky runs where you'd expect a little wild brownie. I'll just quickly fish my way up it, and then I'm not far off the top of this section actually. We can get back before this rain comes, it's forecast. Right, let's see what we've got above us. Some ducks splashing about, I can see that. Wading's a bit trickier here. Those round, slippy boulders. And my studs on my wading boots have seen better days. Another 10 minutes and that's me done. I'm only having an hour or two this morning. Well, there's a little weir pool ahead of me, so that's really the top of the beat I'm going to fish today. I'll wade up to there and we'll have a cast or two in the weir pool and then think we'll call it a day. Again, the problem we've got in here is this: the rocks and they're creating big washing machine vortexes, and it seems it's difficult to get a line on where the food's likely to be coming down. I'd love to get one out of this pool, but I just get that feeling it's not going to happen. Yeah, even controlling the line's very hard. The line's snaking and coiling up as the vortex of the current snakes it round. Balancing on 2 rocks here. Oh yes! 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 I just tossed it into some slacker water. And as is fitting for today, I finished off with a trout. Superb. Lovely. Slip him straight back. Well, I think I'll finish on a fish today. I've had a lovely morning fishing, but I am ready for a cup of tea and a sandwich. Thank you for listening again to the podcast. Don't forget, if you want any fly tying materials or any of the flies, please visit the shop at shop.peaksflyfishing.com, or to find more information about our fly fishing coaching, it's www.peaksflyfishing.com. Until next time, thank you and bye bye.